So it looks like Engwe are imminently about to release a long-tail cargo bike called the LE20. And if it's the bike I think it's going to be the best bike they've released yet. And I'm not just saying that just for the sake of it. I think it's a really good move. Let's get into that. So Engwe have dabbled with the cargo bike thing for a long time now with their L20 and most recently their L20 Boost. And they're very popular, and there's a reason why they're very popular, because they're utilitarian. You can throw baskets on them, you can throw bags on them, and they come with various fittings and fixings that you can carry stuff with. But the move into a long tail version, which their competitors are doing, is actually a good move, and especially one that's built for the UK and Europe. So it comes in two flavours. The Americans are getting a 1300 watt hub motor version, and we're getting a mid-drive, which I'm going to see is being restricted. But there's a lot of bonuses to that, and I'm going to list them out now. So what are the bonuses? Well, for a start off, if it's a mid-drive, it's going to be IP6 rated, and if it isn't, I don't know why. You can have all that extra torque, and there's a rumour of it being 100 Newton meters of torque in this bike. It'll be restricted to 15.5 mile an hour. It'll probably have a 4 mile an hour throttle, but I don't see the point in it if it's a torque sensor, which I also believe it's going to be. And I think it's got massive carrying potential. Now it looks like two batteries. I'm wondering if you can buy it with one or two. I'd have thought they'd be pushing for the two. And it's going to be a 7-speed. I can tell that by the gear change that they put on it, that tombstone I can't stand. But ultimately, and I don't know if you follow me or you're just finding this by accident, but I make my bikes, or I build my bikes to be utilitarian. I put bags on them, I put panniers on them, and the more I can get on a bike and the further I can go, the better. The idea of this being a long range cargo bike too. So if they've got two batteries on there, and for some unknown reason they seem hung up on putting 13 ampere batteries on their bikes, the minimum this is going to be is 26 amperes, but I'm kind of hoping that they're going 16 in 16, which is 32 ampere hours on a torque sensor bike. That range is going to be pretty cool. That's going to be a long range bike. And even at my weight, I'd be looking at a minimum of 50 miles of range if they go down that route. I don't know if it's 36 volt or 48 volt architecture, but I'm kind of hoping it's 48 volt, just to give it that extra oomph in the torque. The torque's important for this bike, especially if you're going to be using it for carting stuff around. And I'm thinking they're going for the delivery marketplace as well, because this bike's perfect for it. And when a lot of the delivery riders riding around on fully illegal bikes that they don't have to pedal, and having them taken off them, that in Cardiff where they did it en masse and just took loads of e-bikes in one go, it's a case of this is a safer route to go down for delivering. But you can also throw your kids on it. I mean, by the looks of things, you get two small children on the back of this. I wouldn't recommend it, but it looks that way. Baskets, I don't know what options they've got that are coming out with the bike, but they need a fair few. The competition that they've got from companies like Fido, or Fido, or whatever you call them, I don't know, FIIDO. I mean, they've got a long tail out, and it doesn't look anywhere as good as this. It's going to be chain driven, which I'd have liked to have seen a belt driven version, but I can understand this. I mean, you want the gear ratios. And as I saw with the step-through version of the P275, the gears made a big difference. The P275 Pro obviously having that rear hub gear changing system that didn't really work. It wouldn't work with this, so I can understand why they've gone down that route. But like I said, I'm excited to see what the batteries they are that are going with this bike. In other news, the House of Lords have met this week and they've been talking about e-bikes, and it doesn't look good. Really doesn't look good. They're looking, or there's been hints that well, one of the Lords actually wants to register normal cycles and make sure that everybody's got insurance. But there were some more level-headed people in the conversation that came out with some quite good points. But I don't want to see us going down the route of, if you've got a legal e-bike, then we've got to get it registered, we've got to get a plate on it, you've got to get insurance. Because the way I see it, these things legally do 15.5 miles an hour. If you're going down the legal route and your bike is set to 15.5 miles an hour, you shouldn't have to register it. You really shouldn't have to register it. Oddly, there was no conversation about battery fires, which is one of the things they normally bring up. But the way I see it, it's a load of doddering old farts that really don't know what they're talking about. You know, you've got 70-year-olds saying, well, I cycle in the city and blah, blah, blah. Well, you know how it is then, because all the competition in the world for that road space isn't going to be changed by you adding in another lane that people walk into. Because that's one of the problems with the cyclists, that one, they don't obey the law, they'll go through red traffic lights, but pedestrians are just as bad. They'll walk straight in front of you on a cycle lane and expect you to stop. Now, there has to be some sort of way around this, and the only way I can see it is that they've got to walk up to some sort of traffic stop system to stop the bikes and then walk across, or at least pay attention to what they're doing. Half the problems with the deaths with these e-bikes or any other bike is because pedestrians aren't looking where they're going. You know, it's fair enough that you have to be responsible and you have to be alert and everything else, but it works 50-50. I can't be on the road, even though I am hypervigilant, because some idiot's on their phone and going to walk in front of me. That ain't my fault, but it will end up my fault if I hit them. And with the laws that came out a couple of years ago for pedestrians, what was that for? You know, was that so they could wander around with their phones in their hands and not having to look up, because they're going to get run over by a car anyway? It was a silly law at the time, and it's still a silly law now, that giving way to pedestrians that aren't even looking up. You know, and you honk the horn at them and they give you the finger and everything else, and it's just like, honestly, really? You know, this is Darwinism at its best. You know, in any real society where the law was that if he walked out in front of me, you know, and I hit him with a car, it was his fault. You know what I mean? You don't learn by other people's vigilance, you learn by your own mistakes. So I'll leave a link in the comment section to the House of Lords comments this week. It's long, I've read it all. There's a lot of fuff and bluster, and there's just one of them who brought it up, just adamant that we should all be paying some sort of insurance, we should all be paying some sort of registration fee for the bike. The one thing that was brought up, and I fully agree with, that all cyclists should wear helmets. All cyclists. You only get one operating system, and when that's crushed, you ain't getting another one. It's one of those parts of science that they haven't managed to get right yet, which is replacing parts of the human brain. It's so intricate. And if you're not wearing an helmet and you get it off your bike and you smash your head in on the floor, well, it's not like you didn't know helmets existed, did you? The other thing with gloves as well, they ought to be made to wear gloves. You know, the amount of people I've seen come off bikes and their palms of their hands are just raw. And I go back to years ago when I was riding through Putsey on my motorbike, RD250, a nice bright yellow one, I wish I still had it. And I went past the bikers pub where they just gritted the road, and I just slid off the bike. And all I ended up with gravel embedded in the palms of my hands, and I had to have them wire brushed out. That wasn't a nice experience. And it's the same thing with this. You know, if you're doing 15.5 miles an hour and you come off your bike, the first thing you do is put your hands out in front of you. So wear some gloves. They're cheap enough. You know, a good helmet and a good pair of gloves will cost you less than £100. And when it happens, if it happens, you won't regret buying them. That's my moan for this week. Like I said, I'm genuinely excited about the 20, the version we're getting, I'm showing here, and the version the Americans are getting, I'm showing here. And it's less likely to be IP6 rated because it's got a rear hub motor. And that's it. Next week, I'm going to have reviews of the Engwe Engine X. I'm going back to it. We're going to have a look at it again, but with a twist this time. Got something special up my sleeve that, you know, I was partly responsible for. And next Saturday, a review of the X26. It's massive, really is a big thing. And we'll see how that goes on, because I haven't filmed that yet. So anything you want to know about the X26 or well, by the time you've seen this, it's going to be too late. But if any questions you've got about the X26 that you want answering during the review, I'm not filming it until the middle of the week, let me know in the comment section and I'll try and get something up on the next review. Have a nice weekend, everyone.